Okay, here we are at the fun emissions place. So, drove over here when it was cold, and we're going to see what we're going to... The current temperature is 87 degrees. We have less than 10 miles on the plugs, or about 10 miles, including test drive. We're not running with the AC on. We're running no accessories. Got 171, 860 on the clock. Got half a tank of premium. All we're running is premium, and we're running the engine cold. First thing in the morning, for high nitric values, you want to go as early as possible and as cool as possible. Pick a really cool day, and you want to run really cool. Looks like those plugs, cooler plugs, helped us. Okay, how did we do? Okay, these are with the colder plugs. These are with the colder plugs. So, as you see, my NOx is a lot better. 0.626, 636, as you can see here. So these are with colder plugs. These are with colder plugs. No crap in the tank. No crap in the tank. I had a half gallon of premium. I just recently changed the plugs, and the air filter's pretty new. Oil change pretty new. Everything else same as before. So this is the results. Now let's go. This is before. This is 2 years ago, with the other plugs, the original equipment plugs. So see, now this is not the same station, not the same tester, and obviously not the same time. I did not do a baseline, so this is before. This is before. This is before. There's our nice failed. Now this is after. Pass. So this is just changing the plugs out. The temperature was maybe 9 degrees cooler, ambient temperature, no crap in the tank. The only difference was I used colder plugs. So I'm going to use these plugs. I'm going to change them out for the normal ones that it requires, and I'm just going to use these plugs for my emissions plugs. So as you can see here, now let's go over here. So this test was with crap in the tank. This is with crap in the tank. So this is the old test, but with crap in the tank. Crap in the tank. So it just shaved off of a little bit on the NOx values. This is with crap in the tank. This is with colder plugs. No crap in the tank. I just run in a half gallon of premium. So as you can see here, my NOx values are a lot lower. 0.6236. This is with the colder plugs. My hydrocarbons, 0.1582. Those are all real good numbers. Now we're going to go over here. Now back to, this is crap in the tank. My hydrocarbons are high, and my NOx just barely squeaked by. So this is with crap in the tank. Now this is the same, I believe at the same station. Hold that thought. Okay, let's recap. So this is 2 years ago it failed. This is the failed test. So here's my readings. This is the failed test. There's my readings. Now let's go to the test where I put stuff in the tank, and this is that video that I put stuff in the tank. So it definitely helped my readings. It helped. Hydrocarbons was actually a little high, but we didn't really care about that. All we really cared about was our NOx values. High nitric NOx. So you see that just pulled it down. We were at 2.6 for failed. This is with stuff in the tank. Now this test here is with new plug wires. So the only difference is spark plugs, colder spark plugs. And this is a pass. This is a nice successful pass. So this is our nitric values, 0.6236. So it really brought it down. Really brought our hydrocarbons down. So this is with colder plugs. So colder plugs, and I started it first thing in the morning, took it over there. I took it over as cold as I could get it. It was actually 87 degrees outside, so not very cold. But preferably is to go early in the morning if you can, and go on the coldest day if you have high nitric values. But right there, that shows those are the colder plugs. And that's really the only thing difference. Okay, 2 years difference, and about 2,000 miles, well, 4,000 miles, 5,000 miles difference. That's really the only difference. So the only difference between the other report and this is colder plugs. Everything else is the same. I did a recent oil change, air filter's good, everything's good from the other report. So colder plugs seems to be the answer. It's a little expensive, but you just keep them around, have an extra set, and you'll just put those in your car before you need to pass emissions, and then run to the emissions store, and then go ahead and put the original plugs in there. You could run colder plugs, but preferably the original plugs that are in there. That's preference, but that's our recap. So I hope this helps, and that's all I did was colder plugs. The colder the better for high nitric values, because that means you have high internal combustion temperatures. You want to bring those down. So we've got good nitric values now.
So what we're doing here is we are finding the coldest plugs. We want to find the right size first, the right thread range, reach, everything, physical size. So these are the plugs. These are the OEM plugs that we run for a 4Runner. This is a 4Runner. So these are Denzos, and so here's our heat range, and so we just Google heat range, and it's actually the numbers are actually the opposite. So there's our heat range, and as you can see, we got a hard. So the Denzos are actually runs hotter. So we want to find one that runs colder, but the same physical size, the same thread reach, the same threads, etc., etc. So just doing some comparisons here, and we want to find, so that same family of plugs, they have a whole range of platinum, whatever, but we're looking for the coldest plug we can find, because high nitric values means you have high operating temperatures, high internal combustion temperatures. So we found this. These are Denzos as well, and so that look, that heat range there. So we compare that to our chart, and these are the same physical size. They will screw in. They have the same reach, everything, except they're just run a cooler plug. So you want to make sure everything gap, everything else is the same. Now these are a little more expensive. There's our thread size. So we just want to make sure that everything matches up, because you want to have the same physical characteristics. So now going back to our chart here, conversion chart, here we are on the 9. So, or for the NGKs. So you want to go for your conversion factor. I wanted to try to find the coldest plug possible, and I'm just using. I bought these online, and now I'm just using these as my temp plugs. So here's a little website. What causes high nitric values? So obviously, as you can read here, and you can Google this as well, but lean fuel mixture. Well, that's computer controlled. I really didn't mess with that. The vehicle's running okay. I ran some code. There was no codes, so that wasn't a factor. Defective EGR. Well, these 4Runners do not have EGR systems. Even though I looked up online, this is from Toyota's Toyota dealership. actually pulling up the AutoZone or Checkers or O'Reilly, and there's no EGR for a 4Runner. So we're going to cancel that out. Doesn't have an EGR. See, no EGR found for a 98 4Runner. Now, if your car has an EGR, then of course replace it, and that's going to help too. So mine doesn't have it, so that doesn't count. Catalytic converter, brand new. We have a really new catalytic converter. High mileage, okay, we have 171 on the clock. Not super high mileage, but anything over 150 is considered high mileage. But I think most cars older than 10 years or 20 years, and this is a 22-year-old car, so that's not a factor. Now, engine overheating. This engine runs actually a little cooler because I have a transmission cooler, so that's not a factor either. The whole cooling system is fine. The radiator's fine. I had it flushed. Belts are good. Hoses are good. It's got good fluid. I've never had problems overheating. The radiator cap's good. There's no leaks. So that doesn't apply to me either. So I went ahead and purchased these. They were a little pricey at $12 a piece, and you need 6 of them. But these are just my emissions plugs. I put these in my car so I can pass emissions. See, there's the higher values that I just showed there. I put these in the car so I can pass emissions, and then I put in the ones that I'll put these in, the ones that it requires. And then I'll run with these, and then until emissions comes due again, then I just switch the plugs out and go back to my emissions plugs, just to play the emissions game. This is all playing the emissions game. So I hope this helps. You'll have to do a little homework on your vehicle. Obviously, these are NGKs and Denzos, and you have to do some conversions. It's not a lot of. We just have to spend a little time researching it. So what I have noticed with those plugs, I feel a little bit of jumpy on the engine. Looks like it's not, I don't want to say a slight misfire, but every once in a while it's slight, I feel a slight unevenness, or it's slightly out of balance, or just a slight vibration. So these are just temporary plugs we're using for emissions, to pass emissions. We will actually use the normal ones that this calls for. Hopefully that'll help alleviate some of the jitterness. It's got a little jitter in it. So I think the plugs are okay. Plug boots are okay. Plug wires, I don't think there's a misfire. When I tried these plugs initially, had some pretty good performance. It was a little more peppier. Of course, the air was a lot cooler. It was a lot cooler at night, so a lot more denser air. So yeah, the cooler plugs seem to help. I'll show you the numbers here in a minute. But yeah, it's we're just doing 40 down the street here. Seems to be even under load, but at idle there's a little bit of jumpiness, and it could be because these plugs are not exactly the same for this vehicle. But I'm going to take it. I'm going to use those plugs as temporary plugs for emissions, and then I'm going to swap out for the plugs that are originally designed for this car and the heat range. So perhaps the cooler plugs maybe are causing a slight jitterness. I can double check my spark plug boots. I can double check the wires, but they look pretty good. I don't think it's a misfire, and it is pretty hot today, so